everyone. Welcome to World of Travel, the podcast. Now, before we get started, I really have to shout out my friends at Turtle who sent me all of these Sesame Street plushies right here for our daughter, Kynsley. So if you guys don't know, Kynsley's sometimes in the office studio filming with us, and our friends Kit and John are watching her for us as unpaid babysitters. But this is going to help her be a little more patient and provide some fun. So thank you, Turtle, for sending these over. We love them. And this is going to be some good stuff while Kolyn spends time away from the office. So thank you so much. Now, on to this podcast. You know, we go beyond the postcard into the lifestyles, choices, and journeys that shape how we all move through the world. Today's guest is a media mogul who turned courage into currency. From Wall Street attorney to entrepreneur, he took that leap of faith that transformed the digital landscape of entertainment news. He built MediaTakeOut, the website that you know. It's the #1 urban celebrity news platform in the world, reaching 35 million readers every single month and breaking stories the industry cannot ignore. Fred Mwangaguhunga, welcome to World of Travel. So, Fred, I want to talk to you because you used to hate traveling. And now I talked to you before we started rolling, and you said you're about to go to 2 countries, I think, in the next few months. With your family also. So something changed that, and it has to do with family. Can you paint the picture for people who maybe felt like you and don't want to always be on a plane?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't grow up traveling at all. I mean, the first time I ever got on the plane, I was already in college, and so the idea of traveling never really was kind of brought into me. Then when after I started working so hard, and then it was just like the idea of traveling other than for work just seemed like it was a waste of time. And then we got to the point where now I actually started getting a lot of money. And so it was like, okay, I have this money and I guess I could afford to go traveling. But I would always look instead to just buy stuff. So instead I'd be like, okay, let me buy, the travel, okay, you have it for, whatever that week, you have that experience for that week. But if you get a watch or you get a car, you can have that for a year, right? And a lot of times traveling can be expensive. So you can buy something physically and you think that's worth more than travel. And it's only until I think I got married, and especially after I started having kids, my wife is really big on traveling, and she convinced me that the best way to spend is on travel because I don't care what you get, what kind of physical anything that you get, you just at some point it gets old. At some point you buy, you only can get how many cars can you have, how many pieces of jewelry can you have, and you don't really want to wear them that much. But travel, you create these memories, especially memories with people that you love, that really last forever. And long after you don't care about the car or the car is broken down or whatever, you have this memory of the time that you and your loved ones spent. And it just, I can tell you right now that that's experiences now are the most valuable things to me. And travel is just, I think, a great way to get experiences with people that you love.
Yeah, that's how World of Travel even started in the first place. Was I wanted to look back on the times, and so I started recording and getting cameras, and I got better and better with the cameras, and it became a snowball effect. But the initial thought was, let me record these moments and let's watch them back later. And so honestly, and Lindsey literally brought me to traveling too. I had traveled. I went to Puerto Rico and Miami,
Right.
and she was like,
Right.
you was like, let's go to Iceland.
I'm with you, man. And there's so many of us too that think
Mhm.
like that, right? Like we're just thinking this is a waste, right? Like, okay, I could go somewhere like a beach. You start thinking okay, well, I could go to the beach in Miami. Why do I have to go to Jamaica, right? Like I got to get my passport. I got to go through customs. I go right to Miami. I'll be right back. I could still keep my dollars. So there's so many people that kind of have that mindset, and it's only until my wife had to drag it out of me, and now I think it's such a great gift to just be able to just kind of travel the world, see these people, and open your mind, learn so much. I mean, it's one of the things that I'm kind of most grateful to her for.
You even
Well,
said
this is
that your
something we've
kids.
never done, Lindsay. What?
Oh,
Go ahead, Lindsay.
I was just saying. He said he told me before we started that his kids will suggest they're going to Asia. I think in March coming up, and
Oh
his kids
wow.
suggest the place. And I told him that you and I have talked about as Kynsley gets older, which now is a good time where she can maybe point to map no regions and tell us why she wants to go somewhere. And so I just think that's so cool
Oh
that your
yeah.
kids are even interested in the global, the world as it is. And a lot of people want to go to whatever is the coolest thing around the corner from them. I know for me, I just wanted to go ride my bike. I want to do this, and that stuff is still cool. But they're interested in like the world. And how do you think that makes them be better people that aren't like shocked when they see someone who looks different than them or has a different culture or experience than them?
Yeah, I think it's especially in this world that we're in today, where there's so many people that just are pushing different narratives. I mean, when you think about like when we went to Rome and you think about like a place like Rome, where there was literally black people, Europeans, Africans, black people, Asians, and everyone was just literally just this is 1,000 years ago. Everyone was walking around and there was no concept of okay, this person's better because of race. Maybe they thought that the country was better or not, but it wasn't this idea of race just wasn't there. And this is a civilization that lasted over 1,000 years, right? Like America is celebrating its 250th anniversary. You're talking about an empire that's thousands of years old, and in Europe that didn't see race as an issue, right? Like it's if you look, if you wouldn't know that until you go to Rome and you see, and then it's obvious that they didn't, right? Like, but we wouldn't know this, right? Like, and I think a lot of people in the United States wouldn't know this. I guess you might see Gladiator and see, okay, yeah, is that really how it was, or where you had these different races of people that are together, or is that just some kind of like woke kind of thing? And it's not. And so when you travel the world and you start to really get to see what world history and what the world really looked like, it really opens your mind to um, the way of the world. And like I said, that isn't the way that I was taught. That isn't the way that I thought. Um, but it is the way that my kids think right now. And so it's amazing that you can do that through traveling. You know?
Yeah. It's opened your mind. And that's something I talk about too. And I was telling guests we had before is travel has really changed me. And I think that way too. I'm one of the things that I focus on in our show is history. And so when I go to these places like Rome, I like to try to put myself in those places or what it would have been like using my imagination. And I imagine a kid could be doing the same thing. And as you were talking just now, I never even thought about that in a way of race and how they didn't think about it. Because if we think about race and how people treat race, it's a culture.
Right?
It's a culture that was created. People were told to think this way. And so this is an ancient culture that we're still dealing with till today, but it may have not been something that was a thing, back then. So just talking about our travels and different things that we have learned and different feelings we have in these different locations. It just sparked that thought in my mind that, hey, this is a culture, this is a sickness, and that's something that we could help cure, just by moving different and experiencing different things and sharing thoughts.
Agreed. I mean, I think that there's so much to learn about, and especially in some of these old cities like Mexico City. When you learn like the history of Mexico City, it's amazing history. Or Rome. I mean, Rome. The one thing we went to Rome and then Florence, and I had no idea about this. So we went to Rome and then we were in Florence. And so when you go to Florence, you see the Medici family, which was like the big family out there. They were incredibly wealthy and incredibly powerful. And you see like a lot of like Middle Eastern type architecture in Rome. And in Florence, you're just like, wow, that's kind of odd. You'll see like a church, but it'll almost look like a mosque with like the way that it's built. And so we took a history lesson. We're talking over there, and so he explained this, and this is a shocking thing, right? Like, so Rome had all of those big, sculptures and the Pantheon, and all that, right? So Rome eventually fell, and then the entire thing was buried. So they took like all the Pantheon, whatever, and they turned it into a church. They buried it for 1,000 years. It was buried underground, and no one knew that there was a thing called Rome. No one knew anything about the aqueducts. No one knew about anything. There was no running water, nothing, right? For 1,000 years. So the Medicis got really wealthy, trading primarily with the Middle East, and decided that they were going to like build like a giant house in Rome, which was not even a city. It was like, like Pittsburgh. Not nothing wrong with Pittsburgh, but like way out there, like an old. Right. So they're building this house, right? This giant mansion, and as they're digging for the foundation, they find this like a statue. They're like, "What is this?" And they pull it out, and it's like one of those Roman statues. And they're like, "Oh my god!" It's like to them, it's like dinosaur bones. They're like, "What is this?" There was an ancient people here, and they kept doing it, and they find all these amazing artifacts. So they bring it over to Florence, and they're showing it off. They're like, "Wow, look at this thing! This is like an amazing thing. We don't even know it exists." And so as they're showing it off in Florence, they have like a young apprentice artist, and his name is Michelangelo, and he sees those Roman statues, and then he does David and the thing. So if you look at
That's
David,
when he did the.
that's all he did. They found it in the ground. They pulled it was for 1,000 years. It was buried underground. They pull it out of the ground. Michelangelo sees it and then does it and brings it back. So now you're talking about 1,000 years or 1,700 years, whatever it is. Amazing, right? Like when you hear these stories of just like how history could like be completely buried and then come back and whatever. Like it's when you hear stuff like that, you wouldn't hear it here, right? And even if you did, I guess I told the story, and I guess maybe you heard that. But like seeing it, and now that I've told this story, and if you're listening to this, go back and take a look at like some of those Roman statues, and then take a look at like what Michelangelo did and stuff in the Renaissance, right? Like when they talk about the Renaissance period, like what's the Renaissance? They're bringing back the stuff because they found it. It was like buried underground. They brought it back, and just basically this is kind of like reintroducing it to that. So I
Wow.
mean, you wouldn't learn that, I wouldn't have learned that, but for traveling, you know.
Yeah, those are the nuances that you learn. And what you're saying is history changed the course of history. Like
Yeah,
Michelangelo doesn't make that painting if he doesn't experience that history. That's
right,
wild.
right.
That's crazy. That'll be
I know. I'm quiet because I know this is Collins. He loves like he take a whole podcast and do a history podcast. So I know that
Right.
like he's
Yeah.
like was dying a slow death as you were explaining this to him, and now I know you want to go. We've been wanting to go to Italy. We haven't made it there yet. We actually have a meeting on Monday to possibly look into some parts of Italy, but this would be really cool to experience because we naturally learn the history about places as we visit them. I don't some of the stuff I don't
Right.
just know from reading, or maybe I just haven't read that type of historical book. But when you go there, you're actually like seeing, like most recently, we were in Turkey in Cappadocia, and we learned about the Ottoman Empire. We learned about why these things
Right.
called chimney ferries, which are in some of the decor behind us that shows the places that we've been, people were using for hiding because, the people that were in the original area that was Turkey could not protect themselves in any way against, the Roman Empire and all these huge armies between Africa, between Europe, and between Asia. They had the biggest
Asia.
militaries in the world. And so they were like, what are we going to do?
Right.
And so they just built and built and built underground and had 8 levels in certain places
9
and
floors
more,
deep
9
into
floors
the
deep of,
ground.
of hiding
Wow.
materials. And we went in there and we're crawling through, like, I mean, they're Kynsley, our daughter's size. But we were like, what ingenuity people had, and great ideas, even with the resources. We think we're so technologically advanced, but in certain ways, people are always advanced.
Right, right. I mean, that's what you get, and you get to see the ingenuity of all these different people. I mean, so much time we spent thinking about, you know, America or one race of people or whatever, and the more that you travel, the more that you see kind of that we all are one, and we all can say that, right? Like, and it sounds good, but like once you experience it, it's hard to not feel that way. And that's why I think it's incredibly important, especially if you're a person like me that, maybe you grew up in the inner city, maybe you weren't really, you maybe believed certain things about yourself, but maybe you didn't really truly believe it inside. It's good to go out there and see. And it's really life changing. Like I said, this is, whereas before I like to, if I would buy things, now buying experiences, buying um, life lessons, I think is more important.
Yeah. Um,
Did
you
you
about
ever
to say
think?
something, Lindsay?
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask about did you, like media takeout is what it is, right? Celebrity focused news and information. Do you ever think about leaning into the political space or other spaces of media more? Have you ever thought about, even doing some other things, or are you already that you want to let us know about?
So yeah, I mean, I'm out here looking to acquire media companies. So we acquired Cheat Sheet, which does celebrity news too, more royal family and the like. But we're looking to acquire anything. So there's a very good chance that in the near future you may see us with uh, a couple of local uh, uh,
Okay,
media
Byron
companies.
Allen.
So we're actively
Right.
doing actively looking to do it, right? Like I think it's great to to do it. I believe in the medium. I think that there's a lot of companies out there that could use um, some of the information and knowledge and expertise that we've developed, and I think we're looking to take advantage of that.
How are you like competing in the climate today? I mean, you think like media takeout historically, like I said, the timing was really done well about a need in a market. You guys understood that black celebrities weren't being covered in the same capacity, and you got all the images from the photographers. But when you think about right now and the access to celebrities, that they're almost like your friends, you see them on live every day. And how does that change what you do and how you move around in this market? And is media, I mean, we watched Sherry Shepherd's show get announced that it's being canceled. We're hearing Kelly Clarkson's show is going away. At the same time, watching Netflix acquire like 70 podcasts. What does that mean for you as a media entrepreneur? Like, are you scared of any of this, or is this like, what do you feel? What do you feel about it?
I mean, I think there's always disruption, and so disruption to a lot of people is unsettling. I think to someone like me, disruption just leads to opportunities, right? And I think a lot of times people only see, like I said before, people only see one side of it, right? Like they might say, "Hey, good example. People say everyone's moving on to social media." So I say about 2016, I think the majority of media companies said, "Hey, we're going to go heavily into social media. We're going to push most of our content on social media, and we're going to go out there." And they got a good reward for it, right? Like they got more traffic, more visibility, and more the like. But what they lost is they lost the control of their audience. So when you put your all your stuff on social media, you actually don't own the audience, right? Like it's Facebook's audience, or sorry, Meta's audience, or YouTube's audience, or TikTok's audience, and they could turn it on and they could turn it off. And so I recognize that that is an existential threat to the business if you put everything on social media. And so while a lot of our competitors at the time put all of their content on social media, we decided to hold back and, in fact, not put our content on social media, which seemed like a terrible decision. Everyone thought I was crazy. They were like, this guy doesn't understand the way of the world. He thinks that, social, doesn't he understand social media is the future? Everybody's got to be on social media. I can tell you that with to to a T, every one of our main competitors that did that is now either out of business or well on their way out of business. Whereas we've, in fact, grown. We're probably about twice this size since we've done that. Because now the idea is that there are very few places that can survive not on social media, where you have an audience that comes to your site because of the content that you provided, recognizing that the only place where they can get the premium content that you're providing is off of social media. And so people will kind of say, okay, well, I'll go on media takeout and then I'll go on social media. And that's just part of the way that the their workflow is. And if we went totally on social media, would we get more people in the short term? Maybe, but then eventually, what social media platforms giveth, they taketh away. And so what we've done, like I said, is focus on the brand, focus on branding content, producing original content, and then our content might eventually find its way onto social media and maybe on our platform, maybe on someone else's. But we're not relying on the content being on social media. And I think, like I said, that while that was a novel concept, 10 years ago when we decided to do it, that's a concept that I think almost every media company is trying to kind of do now. So what they had 10 years ago that they gave up, they're now trying to recapture in a way. So in that sense, I think where you're seeing all this disruption that's out there, sometimes by not necessarily just going the path that everybody says that you should go, that's where the opportunity lies.
Yeah. And this one thing that our audience can learn from you is patience and poise, right? Everybody wants to hit the ground running. Everybody wants to put it out there in front of the world. But what you did, you took the stairs and learned, and there's a lot of strategy involved in waiting and learning. That way, when you're able to run, you're able to sustain that run. And I think that's, amazing thing that I've learned from you and the audience should learn from you is just, it's okay to take your time. It's okay to learn. And you don't have to, jump out for the world to see what you're doing. You could be behind the scenes putting things together and that'll
Yeah.
sustain you through.
Anything that you could do, if you're going to be a musician, you got to learn to play. If you're going to be a doctor, you got to learn to, if you're a lawyer, you got to learn. It takes a lot of time to get there, and you putting in the time and effort and doing it every single day makes you better, right? Like, so now when you say, one of the good questions you asked today was about competition. Like, I've literally been doing this 20 years. I've seen it all. I've been, go ahead, compete. If you think you can do it, go ahead. You know what I mean? Let's do this.
Right.
And I'm not saying that in the I want it to happen or whatever, but I'm not at all intimidated by it because it's like I've got the skills, I've got the goods. I'm not just saying this, right? Like, and I think there's a level of kind of comfort that you get when you get to that point, right? Like, that's what you want to do. This isn't about just kind of cashing out real quick and going and living in the Bahamas. I mean, maybe it is for some people, but I think a lot of people they think that too. They think, oh yeah, I'm going to go. I have this number in mind, and I'm going to hit this number, and then I'm going to like go off and do what I really want to do. And I thought I was like that too. I thought, there was a number. I'm going to hit this number, and then you hit the number, and you're like, well, but I'm actually having fun doing what I do. Like, why not continue to do it? And then you just kind of do it, and it's an interesting misconception, right? Like, because when you talk to most people, they think that you're doing stuff because if you're doing it after you hit the number, you're doing it because you're greedy. You're just trying to make more money and you're just greedy and doing all this other stuff. And I know, I'm not just speaking for myself. I know tons of people that are incredibly successful and really have no business working. There's no financial reason for them ever working another day in their life. And these people work 20-hour days. And it's not because they're greedy. And I know you're watching this, you're thinking, oh no, they're just greedy trying to do this. It's not that. They actually love what they do. Imagine if whatever it is that you do, imagine if it's, maybe it's playing video games, maybe it's playing basketball. Imagine if you could do that forever. You know what I mean? Like, why would you stop? Why would you, if you stopped, you would just play basketball anyway, right? Like a lot of people, like, they love building companies. They love, it's not about the making money part. It's about building the companies, or they love solving problems. They love, you know, um, building teams. And so it's like, if they were to quit, that's what they love to do. And so I think to a lot of people, it's just about kind of figuring out and getting something that you love to do. Um, and then that whole like concept of hitting the number doesn't even matter, right? Like, you're going to do this, or retiring or anything. Like, you're going to do this forever because this is what you love to do. And I think it's hard. It's hard to figure it out, find something that you love. Um, but that's one thing. Like, it's especially as I'm getting older, I'm starting to like realize all the things that I thought it was going to be like, and now like coming back and realizing like it's not like it's not what I thought it was going to be. A lot of the stuff you start thinking of, oh, what's going to happen that day you make, your first whatever $1 million, right? Like, you thinking in your head, oh, I'm gonna go to the club, I'm gonna drink, have a champagne glass or whatever. It don't look nothing like that, or 5 million, 10 million. Like, none of that stuff looks anything like that. And it's weird because now I'm able to like see it, and like I get to think back and like before what I thought it was going to look like. It's kind of like what's it going to look like to have kids, right? Like, in your mind you're thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, but don't look anything like that. It's beautiful, it's great, but like a lot of times we're not prepared for it, right? Like, and so sometimes you see things go wrong too. With a lot of times when people But and there's not a lot of people that look like us that are able to kind of like help you, mentor you through kind of these changes, right? 'Cause all these different changes happen. Right? Like look at like even what Glorilla's going through right now, right? Like got family members coming at her. So there's a lot of like things that happen that no one really talks about. And then it's also like who would you even who would you even talk to about this, right? Like you if you did make it, you probably the only person that you know that made it, right? Like so it's interesting. A lot
Yes.
of this I don't know how I got off on
No,
that.
this is,
No,
I think,
honestly,
Yeah.
you speaking, you really speaking to the right. Lindsay and I, we are the right crowd. We had this, Lindsay, I just told you a few days ago, because a lot of people have advice on us because we've moved across the country in the past 5 years a couple times. And people telling us how we need to do it, different things we need to do. We're in the market, we're trying to get our house rented out. And we're in a market right now where people can't afford our house to rent it. And then we're looking for a new space. So we're going to pay for this space in Denver and pay for the space in DC. And everybody has advice for us. I said, Lindsay, I start asking the question, say, has this person never even rented a house before?
Let me tell you, man.
Has this person ever left the state? You know, I
Let me
don't
tell
want to
you,
hear
dude,
from
that's what I'm saying. Like, I would
them.
not take any advice from somebody that hasn't done it. If that's the one thing, if they haven't done it, and not
Yeah.
only done it, done 10,000 hours of it, I'm not. You might have great. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're right. I'm just saying I'm not listening to what you're saying right
Yeah.
now. I'm listening to somebody that's an expert in this thing, and putting experts around you, I think, is really important. So yeah, sure there are people that you can't talk to. Don't talk to your family and friends and telling you whatever else.
Fred, I know
Then
we
that
kept
ain't
you
gonna
past
work.
time, and I appreciate it because I've been texting Vivian in the middle of this interview to make sure we can. But
But
I
thank
just want
you.
to I want to
Thank
just
you.
end on you just letting people know, like you gave us so many gems today about some of the failures and the experiences of business. But if you could, break it down into some easy steps, not even easy, it's not going to be easy, but if you can break it down into some, here's my advice for anybody that has a dream that's trying to figure out how do you go from ideation to 35 million people interested in your idea, which you have achieved, Fred. And that might be a high goal to set, but what do you tell people? Like, because it's obviously not impossible. It's just really, really hard.
I think it's within everybody to really get the best life for them, right? Like, and that's what you're really trying to do, right? Like, when you find yourself thinking like, "Hey, I can do this to hit this number," that's when it kind of like all goes wrong. It's kind of like the wrong way to think about it. Because, like I said, I'm telling you, the people that I know that are the most successful in the world, they don't have a number, and they never had a number. They never came into this with a number. Right? Like LeBron James didn't say, "Oh, if I could just get to the NBA for 2 years," or Kobe Bryant said, "I'm gonna get to the NBA too." He's like, I just want to play basketball for as much and as long as I can." And so you want to like find that thing in your life that you think you can do like that, and then pour all your effort and time into getting extraordinarily good at that. And when you do that, opportunities follow. You don't necessarily know what the opportunities are or where those opportunities are, but it has to be a long-term plan, right? Like it's like if someone were to tell you how to lose weight and they were to say, "Oh, just kind of, do this diet for 6 months and, do this," and that's not going to work. And if anyone's giving you some kind of career plan that's going to take 6 months, that's not going to work either. It's really like do something that's sustainable over 3 to 5 years that you will actually be able to follow through with and enjoy. And if you do that, that is going to be your best chance of success in any business. And like I said, it would work in weight loss. If you were to talk about weight loss, you say if you could do something for 3 to 5, 3 to 5 years, if it means just walking every day, you could do that consistently for 3 to 5 years. If you hate walking, maybe you like taking a dance class. So go on a dance class every day. That's the best way. That's the best way to kind of think about it and stop with the short term hustle play. The short term hustle play, maybe somebody wins on that, right? Like I guess, but that's not your best way to do it. And like I said, if you get to that thing and you're doing something sustainable, it's not about, hey, I'm just going to do this for 3 years or 5 years and get to this number. You have your best shot of getting to that number when you're doing something that you're good at, that you spent a lot of time in, and that you've gone and built in a sustainable way.
Fred Mwangaguhunga,
Here's the
thank you so
purpose.
much. This was I mean, I appreciate all your time. I didn't even know we were going to have a business talk, but I should have known. I thought we were going to have a travel talk. We had all of it. So thank you so much for your time and this conversation. I can't wait to do this again because I want to talk to you in person whenever you're in DC or we can figure it out in New York.
Okay.